All right, first I'd like to thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for your time and your interest. And I hope that the things I have to say tonight will be of value to you and that you might find some personal application. I get excited about this. This is something important to me, and that is why diet matters. So let's talk about that. Multiple times a day, every day, we have choices to make about what to eat. And while these choices seem insignificant, I believe that they are some of the most consequential decisions of our lives. And I'll explain that, but first I'd like to address this. The typical American diet. Excessive amounts of fat and salt and sugar and, in a lot of cases, caffeine, and all very addictive substances brought to us via refined carbs, excessive amounts of meat, processed meat, degraded vegetables, things like this. And we all know that this meal is unhealthy. That's very common knowledge, right? We do it because, why? It's fast, it's convenient, it doesn't cost that much, at least on this end. And it begs the question, do we really know how unhealthy it is if we continue to fall back on that? And so I put this picture up on my Facebook page a couple weeks ago, and I asked my friends the question, what are the consequences of eating this meal too often? And their answers were cardiovascular problems, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, increased risk of heart attack and stroke, obesity, feelings of sluggishness, constipation, kidney failure, and vitamin and mineral deficiencies. All true answers. But I was really hoping somebody would say one thing, and it didn't come up, and that is that it damages our DNA. Bruce Ames, a biochemist out of Berkeley, has discovered that even subtle nutrient deficiencies, subtle micronutrient deficiencies, far below the levels needed to produce acute deficiency diseases, can cause damage to the DNA that may lead to cancer. And just out of curiosity, how many people in here know somebody who has had cancer? Almost everyone. It's really common these days. And we can see why, and as I go on, you'll see why too. Switching gears just a little bit, I want to talk about a study done on the diets of cats. This study began in 1932, so it was a long time ago, but it was 10 years, multi-generational, and it involved 900 cats. And it was conducted by a Dr. Francis Pottinger. And what he did with these cats is he broke them into two groups, and one he fed raw meats, and the other experimental group he fed cooked processed meats. And as the generations progressed and time progressed, the control group, the cats fed raw meat, were healthy and playful, active physically and sexually. They had no problems. Generation after generation, they were just healthy, happy cats. Meanwhile, those he fed cooked meat, the cooked meat diet immediately became lethargic, and after a little bit began to develop degenerative diseases. And by the second generation, those diseases were even more progressed, and a lot of them were the same kinds of diseases we see in humans today. They developed skin disorders and hypothyroidism. 90% of them had allergies. By the third generation, most of them were infertile. They had a lack of libido. They produced stillborn litters when they could produce. And although there were a couple kittens who were born live to that fourth generation, they didn't last more than a couple weeks. And so within 3 generations, they died out because they were fed this cooked diet, because they weren't getting the raw fruits or the raw meats that their bodies needed. Now, health people like me cite this study a lot to make the point that we need raw fruits and raw vegetables in our diets in order to prevent those micronutrient deficiencies in our bodies. And that is all well and good, but what really fascinates me about this study is something that Dr. Pottinger had no idea what he was doing while he conducted it, and that is to me, the way I see it, this study is also a study in something called epigenetics. And epigenetics is a new field in science, and it's one that really gets me excited, and I find it so fascinating, because what epigenetics is doing is it's closing that nurture versus nature, what's that word? Debate. And it's showing us that that our nurture becomes our nature. It actually changes the way our genes are expressed, and it puts these genetic markers on our genes, and things like lifestyle, environment, and diet all change the way that these expressions are made, and they are heritable and reversible. So those cats were inheriting the genetic weaknesses of their parents. And this is so fascinating to me. And I stumbled on epigenetics when I found an article that said, what your grandma ate affects you now. And I thought, well, that makes perfect sense, right? Family food cultures stay together, grandma's lasagna recipe, grandma's cookies, grandma's lemon meringue pie. Come on, we take those recipes, right? But when I started reading it, I found out they weren't talking about the nurture. They were talking about the nature. They were looking at DNA and genetics alone. What they did was they took pregnant rats and they fed them a diet that mimics the typical American diet in omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acid balance. And a healthy balance of omega-3, omega-6 is 1 to 1, no more than 1 to 4. Well, in the typical American diet, we get 1 omega-3 for about every 20 omega-6s. I've seen that number as low as 14, and I've seen it as high as 26. So either way, it's a significant imbalance. And they fed those pregnant rats a diet that mirrored that typical American diet. And what they found, controlling for all other variables, was that the granddaughters of those rats were 19% higher at risk for developing breast cancer if one grandma had that typical American diet, and 30% higher if both grandmothers ate that typical American diet. Those are pretty significant numbers, and maybe it has a lot to do with why we see so much cancer these days, because those genetic things get passed down. Before we start feeling too guilty for all the McDonald's runs we made while we were pregnant with our children, and before we start pointing our fingers too hard at our parents and grandparents, we need to remember that there's a reversible part of that epigenetic heritage that we receive, and that what we inherit is a genetic potential, tendency, or propensity, but how we live and the quality of our environment determines what our genes actually express. So there's some ownership that we have to take care. And there's also a hard truth. We like to believe that all the terrible health problems we see today are chance happenings, that somehow we're victims of these diseases, that it was out of our control, like a virus randomly chooses its target, when in reality, and I believe in most cases, what we're experiencing is natural consequences of our choices, and also the choices of our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. And epigenetic markers have been found to go 6 and 7 generations back. So we inherit a lot, but what we do with that inheritance is what really makes, we're not victims of our parents' choices, right? We have to make our own choices, and that's kind of what matters, because we can turn on and turn off those genetic markers by our choices. So it comes down to good health is a choice, and it's one we make multiple times a day, every day. And how do we begin to make that choice? I believe the first foremost thing we need to do is to become aware of what you are eating. The more studying I've done, the more research I've done, the more documentaries I've watched and books I've read, I am convinced that the food industry does not care at all about your health and well-being. They don't. They are concerned about making a product that you will buy over and over again, and they're in it to make money. Also, they are so successful at that they have been able to kind of infiltrate, for lack of a better word, the FDA. They have their representatives on the committees that determine the food guide the food guidelines. They have their representatives on the councils for what's safe and what isn't safe. They have their people, even in like Supreme Court seats and Congress. They have their fingers tightly held on to law policies that affect our food. So the responsibility falls to us to make sure that what we're eating is healthy for us, because nobody else is looking out for you but you. And that's what I mean when I say become aware of what you're eating. There are 2 documentaries on Netflix. There's actually a lot of documentaries on Netflix, and I recommend all of them. But there's 2 that if you're not going to take the time to watch more than 2, just watch these 2. The first one is Food Inc. It shows a lot about it shows what our food industry is right now. And it is mind-blowing. And I believe that this was the first documentary I watched that had anything to do with our government systems and food systems that are present today. And it changed the way I shopped, for sure. The second one is Fresh. And if Food Inc. shows us what is right now, Fresh shows us what it should be, where we want to go. They're both fabulous. Please take a few minutes. I think it would take 2 hours total to watch both of them. Also, part of becoming aware of what you eat is to read ingredient labels. I know most of my friends are more concerned about calories. Calories seem to be the end-all and be-all of whether something is good for you or not. And calories really have nothing to do with whether something is healthy for you or not. It's the ingredients that you need to be paying attention to. So, there are 22 ingredients in this bottle of Hidden Valley Ranch dressing. We generally think that ranch dressing is probably not so bad for us. Maybe a few more calories than the vinaigrette, but that might be the only difference, right? Well, check out the first ingredient in that bottle of ranch. It's soybean oil. The food industry wants us to believe that soy is good for our bodies and that it's a health food, and they sell it as a health food. And the thing is that soy is not a health food. It is in every processed, prepackaged thing in the grocery store. We get it in everything, and we have it to excess in our bodies. And it messes with endocrine systems. It contributes to infertility. It contributes to that imbalance of omega-3s and omega-6s that is linked to depression and heart disease and another one that I'm not remembering. So this is why we need to really look into what we're eating. There is a great website called BeFoodSmart.com, and you can look up an ingredient. If you see an ingredient on the back of a label that you don't know what it is, go to this website, look it up, and it will tell you why they're using it, what purpose it serves in that food, and the known health effects of that ingredient. So I went and looked up some of these because I didn't know what they were, and I found health effects such as kidney failure and asthma and headaches and nausea and chest palpitations and chest pain and all kinds of things that you wouldn't think, you wouldn't want to eat, but you don't know because you never looked it up, right? So really start taking charge of that. Look at the ingredient labels and find out what it is that you're putting into your body and how it affects your body. My personal rule of thumb, and I'm not 100% with this because I'm not perfect, but is if there's more than 5 ingredients, I tend to just put it back. I don't want to eat more than 5 ingredients. And if there's any ingredients in there that I don't know what they are, I tend to put it back, or I don't buy it again until I look at and find out what's in there. My rice checks have BHT, which is a carcinogen, but I really like my rice checks. I trust my liver and kidneys to work out some toxins in my body. So I would also be totally remiss if I didn't mention organic in a talk about why diet matters and how food affects us. Many of my friends, I've heard them complain that the organic is just a ploy to make them pay more money for their food, and they kind of are missing the point. The organic movement is about safe and sustainable farming practices. Current farming practices in America are really damaging to the soil. The pesticides are extremely toxic. Fertilizers, genetically modified crops, not rotating crops, or only using a couple different, things like rotating soy with corn and then corn with soy, right? That's pretty common, I would think. These things deplete the nutrition in the soil. And the natural result of depleted soil is poorer nutrition in the plant that we eat. So, poor soil, poor plant, poor person. Like, it's all a chain. You can't separate yourselves from that. To give you an idea, the University of Texas did a study. They published it in 2004, and what they did was they took the nutrient content facts of 43 different produce items as indexed or found in 1950. So in 1950, the FDA, or the USDA, they found the nutrition content for 43 different fruits and vegetables. And they, in 1999, they redid that, or somebody redid that with whatever was at the grocery store, I don't know. And they found, they also compared the nutrient content. The nutrient content for those same 43 produce. And what they found was reliable declines across the board. And to give you an idea of how reliable those declines were, we today have to eat 8 oranges to get the same amount of vitamin A that our grandparents could get in 1950 from 1 orange. That's what farming, the traditional farming practices right now that we're seeing in America are doing to the soil. That's how reliable that decline is because of the soil. And so this is why organic is so important, because organic, they have very strict guidelines on the farming, and it makes the soil is more nutrient dense. It's safer from pesticides and chemicals that are toxic to bodies. And so healthier soil equals healthier plants equals healthier people. This is why I really believe that if we can afford organic, and when we can afford organic, we need to buy organic so we can support those farmers that are, being good to the earth and making sure that we have something there for our children. Because if we think about it, if this is the decline that has been from 1950 to now, what are our grandkids, how many oranges are they going to have to eat? It'll go from have your 5 a day, which I believe should be more like 7 or 8 a day at least, to did you get your 55 today? Is that even possible? This is why organic is important. This is why we should be buying organic. If not just for the benefits ourselves, to support a cause that is important to our future. The second really most important thing we need to be doing is eating your vegetables and your fruits. Eat your greens and your yellows and your oranges and your reds and your purples. And I don't mean your jelly beans or your I mean vegetables. The CDC is, right now their statistic is that 33% of American adults are meeting their daily requirements for fruits. And 27% of American adults are meeting their daily requirement for vegetables. And that is just not enough. That's not enough of us. Remember, the plants, the fruits and vegetables are what are giving us the antioxidants and the phytonutrients and the vitamins and minerals that our bodies need to protect themselves against the things that are carcinogenic in our environment and in our lives. The second thing is to eat whole grains. I know carbs have been villainized lately in our culture, and it's not fair and it's not right, because if you're looking, carbs are not created equal. And a whole grain carb is necessary for your body. Your body needs the vitamins and minerals that those grains offer. So when you go to the store, look, and you're buying that bread, check, and if whole grain flour isn't the first ingredient in that bread, put it back and find one that has whole grain as the first ingredient. Same with your cereals, same with anything that you're eating that is like a flour-based. A good idea too might be to change out your cereal for oatmeal or quinoa. Quinoa is a great great little, it's like a grain, but I think it's actually a seed from a seed family.
What's it called?
Quinoa. It's Q-U, and I'm not a speller.
I-N-O-A.
Q-U-I-N-O-A. I-N-O-A. Thank you. Quinoa is also a complete protein all by itself. It's a really great food. You should give it a try. It's textured like couscous. Anyway, so eat your vegetables. Make sure you're checking for whole grains. I wanted to go ahead and, there are some easy ways to get those vegetables. If we are seeking fast food for convenience, then let's do what we can to make the vegetables convenient for us, right? Green smoothies. We've been doing green smoothies every morning for a little over a year now, and they are fabulous. They take almost no time. I'm going to make you some tonight in the back. It's a great way to instantly start our day with, a bunch of vegetables. Another thing you can do that we found is pretty convenient is to make these salad to-go jars. You just dice up the vegetables you want in your salad, put them in the bottom of the jar, stuff a bunch of lettuce on top, screw the lid on, and now they're ready to go in your fridge. Just grab and go. Don't put the dressing on until you're ready to eat, because then you just get soggy, gross lettuce. But, again, making it convenient. You can spend like an hour or half hour cutting up some vegetables and sticking them in snack bags, and then they're just ready to go. I like to use cups because I don't have to go anywhere. I can just hang around my house, and we snack on frozen peas at my house. We really do. Or freeze-dried. I have freeze-dried vegetables that are really delicious, and we like to snack on those too. My son thinks the broccoli is chocolate. He really does. When he asks for green chocolate, he wants freeze-dried broccoli. The third thing is to minimize meat and animal products. And I know that this is a touchy thing, because if I stand up here and I'm saying, go vegan, you're all going to be like, not happening, right? This is a hard one. I have read a lot of research that says it's good, and a lot of research that says it's bad. And it seems to be a point that a lot of people have very strong feelings on, and they're very one or the other. My personal belief would probably take an hour to fully explain to you, but I'm going to say this. Plant-based diet means most all of your calories are coming from plants, and I really believe in a plant-based diet. I do. And if you're going to eat meat, make sure that you're eating organic meat, grass-fed beef. Know where your meat is coming from. When you go home and watch that Food Inc., you will know why I'm saying this, and you will want to do that all by yourself on your own. Like, it won't even matter that I told you to do it. You'll be, when you see what the industrial farming of animals is, it's so sickening. So, clean meats are meats that are organic, that have been grass-fed in the case of beef, that you know where they're coming from. Otherwise, you kind of don't know what you're getting. Probably a lot of antibiotics, a lot of antibiotics, and growth hormones, and things that are not healthy in our bodies. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Please really, don't trust me. Go home and do that research, because you need to know for yourself. You need to see for yourself what meat is in America these days. It might not be what you think. Oh, too much protein in the diet is really common in America, and it is linked to heart disease, kidney stones, osteoporosis, cancer, among a lot of other things. The thing with animal proteins is that they don't come with fiber the way that plant proteins do, and so things can get clogged when there's not enough fiber in your system. And I've heard a statistic over and over. I can't even cite the source. But it's the average American has about 8 pounds of fecal matter hanging out in their colons, because their body, there wasn't enough fiber to push it out. So it's hanging around in there. And if you think about it, the same blood that's circulating through your colon is also circulating through your brain and your whole body. And it's just kind of, you don't want that. This is why, for me, I prefer to get my protein from plant sources than animal sources. But when I do eat animal sources, I make sure that that meat is clean and organic. Vegetarians do statistically have much significantly lower risks for all of these things. And some things that meat eaters have that vegetarian, are non-existent, like you probably don't see obese vegetarians or vegans, like, because there's not a lot to make you fat if all you're eating is lettuce and carrots. The fourth one, I get on a soapbox about this, and I apologize if I offend anybody, but sometimes hard truths hurt. We eat too much sugar and too many sweets. The statistic is we eat half a pound of sugar a day. That's 800 some calories. That's the national statistic on how much sugar we're eating. Sugar hides under 50 different names on food labels. So you're going to look at that label and not see sugar, but that doesn't mean it's there. It means it's hiding under a different name that you might not recognize. And there's more damage that sugar does than just cavities and hyper children. It displaces those calories. There's no nutrition value in sugar, white refined sugars. Maple syrups and honey, they have some nutritional value, but white sugar does not. And so we're displacing nutrition, contributing to those micronutrient deficiencies that can lead to cancer. But also, sugar has been implicated in failure to thrive, in colic, and learning disabilities, and attention deficit disorders. And I believe that we are just barely understanding how damaging sugar is to our body. It gives us a quick burn, like it burns quick, so our blood sugar spikes, and then it drops, and then we're hungry again, because our blood sugar wants to stay at an even rate. And so we're hungry again, we eat more sugar, it spikes and it drops. And a lot of medical professionals, not crunchy people like me, medical professionals, they believe that continual spike and drop and spike and drop and spike and drop contributes to some of the kind of serious diseases we see today, and diabetes and obesity and all this. We eat too much sugar. We need to take it back to, holidays and a birthday, and not every single day with every single meal. And that's my opinion. And I'll leave it, and I'm sorry if I offended anyone, but only kind of sorry. The next thing is drink water. Water is incredibly important to flush out all the toxins in our body, to keep us hydrated so our body can do what it needs to do. This statistic is 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated. That's a pretty big number. And I'm going to guess that those chronically dehydrated people are also part of the 75% that aren't meeting their daily vegetable and fruit requirements. But that's just a guess. Here's some facts about water. It's a primary cause of daytime fatigue and headaches. Mild dehydration will slow down one's metabolism by 3 to 5%. Thirst is often mistaken for hunger. Early research indicates 8 to 10 glasses of water could significantly ease back and joint pain. It did for 80% of the participants in that study. So I can't help but wonder how many people pop an Advil when they have a headache or their back hurts, when really a couple glasses of water could have solved that problem. Or, how many people eat when they're not hungry, they're really thirsty, contributing to excessive calories in the diet. If mild dehydration will slow down your metabolism, adequate hydration will speed it up. It's a good thing to do if you're wanting to lose weight. Drink more water. Change it out for that soda, and anything that is giving you calories when you drink it, you might not need it. And then there's people like me who are always trying to gain weight, so I'm okay with trying to get some calories. But no, I know it's like I have a problem. I can't keep weight on me. But anyway, I'm kind of running out of time, so I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you that I just started a health challenge. This is the website. You can also get to the .com. I finally figured out how to make it a .com today. It took me hours. But the ChooseHealthChallenge.com, it's a competition-based health challenge to get people to motivated and hopefully help me make habit changes that will create healthier, happier lives. So I'm going to thank you for coming. I'll answer a few questions, and then we'll head to the back, and I'll make you some green smoothies, and we've got some vegetable trays, because we weren't about to serve brownies tonight. Sorry. And thank you.
No worries.
Thank you.